previous videos on automation, we used objects of the transaction type to record a ticket reservation and create the passenger as a customer for the company. We must now associate the customer we just created with the reservation. To execute the association, we will use the Assign Customer to Reservation procedure, which receives by parameter the reservation identifier and also the customer identifier. In the source, it uses a for each so that, in the position of the reservation, it associates it with the customer desired. To assign the procedure to the Associate Customer with Reservation task, in its procedure property, we select the Assign Customer to Reservation procedure. We also map the relevant data, reservation ID, and customer ID. Then we press OK. Back in our diagram, we can see that following the execution of the Associate Customer with Reservation task, or also in the case where adding the passenger as customer was not necessary, we must validate the reservation by means of the Validate Reservation subprocess. Taking a close look at the symbol of the subprocess we selected in the modeling stage, if we compare it to those in the toolbar, we will see that we used a subprocess of the embedded type. We may use one of either two types of subprocesses, embedded or reusable. Embedded subprocesses are used when we want to encapsulate several tasks in a complex diagram in order to improve comprehension. Reusable subprocesses enable us to invoke an independent process and the possibility of reusing its functionality in the calling process. Since they're independent processes, their relevant data is also independent, though there is a mechanism for associating them with one another. Having defined the Validate Reservation process in our example as an independent process diagram object, then we must change the subprocess symbol we use to a different one of the reusable type. So we go back to GeneXus to modify the flight ticket reservation diagram, then delete the embedded subprocess, drag a subprocess of the reusable type, and restore the connections. Then we associate the subprocess with the Validate Reservation process. This type of adjustments to the model may be done in the automation stage, because in the modeling stage, we are not concerned with which will be the GeneXus objects we associate with the diagram. We will now execute the process again to include these changes. We select the flight ticket reservation object, right-click, and select Run. Here, again, we find the incoming tray. We execute the ticket reservation task. We do not enter the customer. Then complete this task and execute the following task, Record Customer. We enter the customer, confirm, and we close the window. The following task shown by the incoming tray is Contact Airlines, the first task of the Validate Reservation subprocess. Because this is a batch task, the Associate Customer with Reservation task was executed by the workflow engine, and therefore, it's not shown in the incoming tray. We can see that when GeneXus objects are associated with the diagram, our system is executed to the extent that the process diagram occurs, and each GeneXus object is invoked as applicable. This makes it unnecessary to code link the calls between GeneXus objects, as is the case in an application where workflow is not used, because invocations are automatic. Something we've not considered so far is the concept that a process may have several instances under execution at the same time. This means that it's possible to initiate different executions in the same process that take place simultaneously. In the incoming tray, the button to the far left, New, enables us to initiate a process instance. This is useful for testing different scenarios for executing the process or the task, a typical aspect in a prototyping cycle where we carry out tests to verify the functioning of our system. In GeneXus, we can define whether we want to work with workflow in prototype mode or in standard client mode, that is, executing the application as if it were in production. This is something we do in Preferences, in the properties corresponding to environment, under Workflow, in the execution mode property. The main difference between the two modes is that in prototype mode, we can execute any task with no restrictions on roles or permits, and only in the instance initiated will be executed, while all previous instances will be aborted. In standard mode, we can see all instances in execution, but we must log in to execute the workflow client. So we can only execute the tasks assigned to the role logged. We will be seeing this topic further ahead. Another interesting feature in Workflow Client is the possibility to view the process history with the paths in the diagram that were used when the process was executed. To view this history, we select Outbox, and from there, we select the outgoing tray. We will see that the tasks are shown that we have just executed: ticket reservation and record customer. We select one of these tasks, press the History button, and we will see that a window opens up showing the process history. In this window, we can see all the tasks that have been executed. If we go to More Actions, View Diagram, we can see the history in animation mode by pressing play. We can see that the execution stopped in the Validate Reservation subprocess. In the next video, we will continue associating GeneXus objects in that subprocess diagram.